So the Vikings have a 2-7 Dallas Cowboy team coming in, a game that I think when the schedule came out, there were a lot of people kind of pinning this as like that one might be a little difficult. People are saying things that aren't like that now. So offensively, they're eighth in total offense at 395 yards a game, 22nd in yards per play at 5.4. They are fourth in passing yards still at 285 a game. 26th in sacks allowed, allowing 26, and 20th in sack percentage at 6.3% of their attempts, resulting in sacks. 17th in rushing yards, 110, 23rd in yards per carry at 4.0, and they are only 15th in attempts per game as of right now at 27.2. So kind of middle of the pack, and my guess is that likely drops with more losses you have. 23rd and third down at 40.8%, 29th in red zone percentage at 51.9%, and they're 22nd in points per game at 22.7. I think some of their yardage totals are still kind of being coasted off the very, very hot start A1 Dak Prescott had, but I don't think those numbers are necessarily indicative of how the offense has played. Of late in Dallas, it has not played well. Defensively, they're 23rd in total defense at 381.6, 20th in yards per play allowed at 5.8, 11th in passing yards allowed at 224.6, 19th in sack percentage at 5.5%, and pressure percentage is at 21.7, which is 18th in the league. They are 31st in rushing yards at 157 per game, 30th in yards per carry at 5.0, and they've been ran on quite a bit, 31.7 times per game, which is the second most in the league. Now, 28th on third down, 48.3%, 21st in the red zone at 66.7%, and they're last in scoring defense, allowing 32.2 points per game. Now, on the injury report, they do have their, I guess what would be their starting center in Tyler Biadasz. He is out with hamstring issue. That means Joe Looney will be in. Randy Gregory and DeMarcus Lawrence are both questionable with illness, but everything I've seen points to both of those two guys playing against the Vikings. Now, they do get Chidobe Awuzie back. He is one of their starting corners after Trayvon Diggs was put on IR, so which is kind of unfortunate for them. He looked like he was doing okay. And he had a hamstring issue, and this is his first game back in 7 weeks. So, yeah. Minnesota, unlike Dallas, they are riding a 3-game winning streak and are currently 4-5. Offensively, 9th in total offense, 382.3 yards per game. They are first in yards per play at 6.5. 23rd in passing yards, though, at 228.8. 14th in sacks allowed at 17. 22nd in sack percentage at 6.5. They are 5th in rushing yards at 153.6, 2nd in yards per carry at 5.2, and 9th in attempts per game at 29.8. However, only 19th on third down at 41.5%. They are, however, 3rd in the red zone at 75.9%, and 15th in the league in points per game at 26.2. Defensively, after last week, it kind of went up a bit in statistical categories. 24th in total defense, 383.6 per game, 19th in yards per play at 5.8, 27th in passing yards at 267.9, 21st in sack percentage at 5.2, but 25th in pressure percentage at 18.6%. 15th in rushing yards allowed at 115.7. They are 10th in yards per carry allowed at 4.1, and 28.1 carries against them per game, which is good for 12th most. Now, defensively, they actually kind of rank well in both third down and red zone percentage. 35.2% on third down, which is 4th in the league, and they're also 4th in the league in red zone percentage at 53.1%. However, still 23rd in points per game allowed at 27.4, and the fact that that's 23rd should tell you how ridiculous the scoring is this year. On the injury report, unfortunately, Ezra Cleveland is out with an ankle. He has been kind of a a sight for sore eyes at that right guard position, and now he's not there. And it looks like it's going to be Brett Jones unless they decide to opt for Oli Udoh, but my guess would be Brett Jones. Cameron Dantzler, he's questionable with his concussion. He was limited all week, so I would assume, once again, if there isn't some kind of concussion test of some form in the protocols, that unless he fails that, he's probably going to be okay to go. Irv Smith is actually that 50-50 questionable of what that means with that groin injury, as he was also limited all week. I wouldn't be surprised to see that one go either way, and I feel like that one's probably going to be more game time decision. Haven't read anything, but my feeling says probably more game time decision. Now, they do have CJ Ham on the COVID-19 list as of right now. They placed him there on Wednesday. So I don't know all of the rules with the COVID-19. I'll be honest with how that list works. So I don't know if it's possible for him to come back by the game. But they do have Jacob Vargas on the practice squad as a fullback. So my guess is they would use that practice squad rule where they can just elevate a guy on game day for Jake Vargas. That would be my guess. And now we get to actual thoughts here. So offensively, I think you need to attack Jalen Smith. And I know a lot of people like Jalen Smith. Oddly, I was one that didn't ever really like Jalen Smith. Even back at Notre Dame, I kind of thought he was overrated. I didn't think he was physical enough. Which brings me to a point now. I don't think he's physical enough. Attack him in the run game. Whether that's trying to get a guard on him to the second level or with what I would now assume is Jake Vargas with the fullback. His job is to hit number 54 every time Dalvin Cook carries the ball, because I don't think 54 wants any of it. And another thing I would like to say, move the pocket for Kirk, because Gallimore and Woods have actually played pretty well as of late, and now we got a bye, so who knows what kind of wrinkles will be thrown into the Dallas Cowboys defense and or offense. But last time we saw them, Neville Gallimore and Woods were actually kind of doing some things, specifically Gallimore in the pass rushing department. He can collapse pockets, and he's really, really quick. He's athletic, and he can make plays. Was a guy I actually wanted Minnesota to get. They did not. But with no Ezra Cleveland, I would say move the pocket, because I don't know if you can trust that in even, well, not necessarily just straight drop back passing, but more of that flash play action that you sometimes see Minnesota do with kind of that flash out of the draw kind of thing. And that's kind of backfired on Minnesota as of late anyway, through blitzing corners. Now, I do think you could test Chidobe Awuzie a little bit when you're given the man-to-man coverage, which might be a lot considering Dalvin Cook. And it's just more of to test is he rusty, is he completely in football shape, test that hamstring a bit, kind of chest him deep, see if there's any kind of lingering issues there that you might be able to take some kind of advantage of down the field with either Thielen or Jefferson. So something to target when given the man coverage. Now, the other part about this, don't be afraid to throw, because I know Cook is amazing and all that, but obviously play action is clearly a thing they can do, because what team better to do it than the team that only runs, specifically when it's not even working. But, well, I won't say not working, but they did run Dalvin Cook 30 times straight into Akeem Hicks last week, so they're certainly relentless with it. And if you start doing play actions off of it, people are going to bite. And I just kind of think you need to change it up a little bit, because keep in mind, this Dallas Cowboy team saw the Cleveland Browns earlier this season, meaning they've seen Kevin Stefanski. So they've seen this offense. And you can't have any turnovers in this game. That was kind of a problem last week. Thielen with the drop that turned into a pick. Obviously, Kyle Rudolph fumbling. Then you have the weird snap thing. And it wasn't a turnover, but it's certainly a mistake that can become one. And you just can't have those. You got to just not see that in general. Now, defensively, I went back and forth on how I thought this was the best way to do this. And I do think you need to stack the box to stop Ezekiel Elliott. I know he hasn't played that great of late, but you stop Zeke, you put pressure on that line, mug those A-gaps, you know what Zim likes to do with all his blitz packages, and just kind of, it's an injury-plagued line. Put pressure on them. Find a way. Specifically, Terrence Steele. Terrence Steele has also not played well. He is, I believe, the worst graded tackle per Pro Football Focus. So, overload that side. I don't care with who or with what. Just overload it, make him think, make him struggle. And the corners have to show up this week. This wide receiver group, I know everyone talks about the top 3. I think it can run 4, maybe even 5 deep. Because no one knows about them, but every time you watch Dallas, every once in a while you see a guy named Cedric Wilson pop up. He can make some plays. He's from Boise State. He's kind of this, he's more of a return guy. He can do some things, you know, after the catch. And then you also have Noah Brown, where he's a possession receiver that comes in, and when he comes in, all he does is convert for first downs. So the corners need to step up in this game, because this thing can run 5 deep. And something our corners cannot do is run 5 deep. So, something to be concerned about. And that kind of brings me to, you need to generate pressure. Because if you don't, those receivers will kill the secondary as a whole. I don't think we necessarily have the arsenal back there to stop Amari Cooper, to stop CeeDee Lamb, to stop Michael Gallup. You know, we don't have those guys just to lock up with them. So you need to generate pressure, which is why you need to stack the box, put pressure on that line, and attempt to get Andy Dalton into a traditional drop back passing kind of game, because I don't think that line can handle it. And you do need something that could happen. You could generate some turnovers this game. Specifically Eric Wilson, because that's the guy who seems to only come up with turnovers. And Dallas is minus 13 in the turnover differential this year. That is last in the league. So force the issue, be aggressive, try to get that to continue in the wrong direction for the Dallas Cowboys. Now my prediction, I do have Minnesota winning this game 31-17. And it's a game Minnesota should win in all aspects when you look at this. And the way the teams are trending, the numbers even kind of say, yeah, Minnesota's a running team. Dallas can't really stop the run, even though they did stop Pittsburgh for 46 yards and I think 2.5 yards a carry. Although that's a team that doesn't really like to run the ball. But obviously, considering what the numbers are, that's some sign of life at the very least. And I just wouldn't be surprised if this ends up a little closer than most think. Because if you look at things, 35% of the points the Dallas Cowboys have actually allowed this season are points off of turnovers. So they stopped shooting themselves in the foot. What would they be at? Well, in the ideal world where they wouldn't have any turnovers, they would be at, only allowing 20.8 points per game, which would actually rank 7th in the league. So the record says 2-7. Could be slightly deceiving because they do have skill position talent even with their line hurt. Or potentially lines because, Gregory and Lawrence are questionable with illnesses, so I don't know if they'll be hindered at all. But we do know that offensive line is completely decimated with both those tackles on IR. And now, obviously, their center's hurt, even though Joe Looney, I believe, started the season at center, but then he got hurt for a bit, and then Biotic came in, and things like that, But it says 2-7. They have talent at the skill positions. They don't shoot themselves in the foot. They give themselves a legitimate chance to win games. So it's kind of a bit of a trap game, if you believe in those. I know some don't, but it could be considered a trap game. And this could end up becoming quite the ball game in Minnesota if there are no turnovers. And like I said before, it did play Cleveland. So they're familiar with this scheme. They're familiar with this offense. They're kind of familiar with how it wants to be run. They kind of have an advantage in knowing, okay, this is what they're probably going to try to do. Then they can counter it before we've done anything, just because they've already seen it. And it's something to think about. I'd like to know your guys' opinions down below in the comments section. Like and subscribing, super helpful. And until next time, I bid you all adieu.